What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I'm going to be talking about Han Solo. You've read the title, you know what I'm going to be talking about, but before I get into it, I want to give a brief spoiler warning for Solo, a Star Wars story, and Star Wars Episode 7, where Han Solo featured prominently. Both those movies will be spoiled a bunch today, and there's the ever so slight chance that I will talk about Star Wars Episode 9 a bit as well. But without any further ado, let's get in. Okay, so I don't like how Disney has used the character of Han Solo. My biggest complaint with Disney is that they have made him into a bad smuggler. They think it's funny to show him being bad at his job. Like, he's supposed to be the galaxy's best smuggler, or close unto that, but he's not. In Star Wars Episode 7, he's caught between two separate gangs, and they're both telling him, "You failed jobs for us, and no one's willing to trade with you anymore." And it's like, haha, it's funny, Han Solo's a bad smuggler. But it's like, wait, wasn't he supposed to be one of the best? And then in Solo, a Star Wars story, it's just as bad. He fails the train heist, and he fails to get the coaxium to Crimson Dawn. Technically, he does succeed getting it out of Kessel and refined, so partial yay? But like, that doesn't add to his street cred, it doesn't make him a good smuggler, and it's just, it's frustrating. Now, I will acknowledge that Solo, a Star Wars story, does take place canonically 10 years before the events of Episode 4, so he does have 10 years to build up that smuggling reputation, but it is sad that in this one movie that we get as his prequel, he doesn't successfully be a smuggler, which is just really sad and frustrating. And in Star Wars Episode 7, Han famously says to Leia, "I went back to what I was good at," except that clearly he wasn't good at smuggling because there were two gangs after him to collect bounties on him because he was such a bad smuggler. It's just, and not for nothing, but he also said he had a larger crew before they captured the Rathtars. So is he a bad captain too? He just lets his crew get eaten by dangerous monsters, all in the name of fulfilling some job? Like, what? I know it's a throwaway line. It might not be, he might be inflating the truth of it and all that stuff, but still, it's just, they show Han in such a bad light in both of these movies. And to add insult to injury, when Rey and Finn both find out that they're talking to the Han Solo, Finn says, "Are you the famous rebellion general?" And Rey says, "No, he's the famous smuggler." And it's a great line, it's very funny, but it just doesn't make any sense because he's not a good smuggler, because Disney has not shown him to be a good smuggler. And in my opinion, they've kind of made him less cool than what he should be. And it's just, I really don't like that. I really don't like Disney that they just think it's a really funny joke to have him keep failing at jobs. That's not funny. It's not cool. It makes him less competent. It makes him less interesting as a character, and it bothers me. Moving on, another thing that I don't like that Disney did to Han Solo is making him a bad pilot. Now, this is more focused in Solo, a Star Wars story. I'll get back to Star Wars Episode 7 here in a second. But in Solo, a Star Wars story, he never once flies a TIE fighter, which absolutely baffles me because I feel like that could have been a perfect way to show how good of a pilot he is by flying one of those really successfully. But nah, he doesn't fly one. I know there's a deleted scene, but A, it's only one deleted scene, and that would not have convinced me that he's a good pilot. Plus, in that deleted scene, he crashes, which, again, bad pilot. But 3, it's deleted. It doesn't count. It's not canon. I'm sorry. I don't care how cool it may have been. It's gone. It's not there. But the other big problem in Solo is when he gets his chance to shine. He's driving the Millennium Falcon. He's completing the Kessel Run. What does he do? He ends up trashing the Millennium Falcon. That's not a good pilot. He doesn't dodge out of the way like he did expertly in Star Wars Episode 5, avoiding asteroids left and right. No, he crashes the ship. He launches pieces off of it. He loses radar dishes and turrets and stuff. Yes, I know it's to nostalgically call back and show us what the pristine Millennium Falcon looked like and what it now looks like and how it became what we know and love. But that's frustrating because that means he's a bad pilot. He absolutely wrecks this ship, and yet he's supposed to be a good pilot? Like, how does that make any sense? I don't like it. It frustrates me to no end. And I really don't like that Disney made him into a bad pilot in Solo, a Star Wars story, which should have been where we saw him become a good pilot. Now, as I said earlier, this is mainly a problem with Solo, a Star Wars story. In Star Wars Episode 7, Han is actually shown to be a pretty cool pilot, having two cool scenes. One, he goes into hyperspace inside a hangar. No hollow maneuver for him. Yay! And 2, he exits hyperspace in a planet's atmosphere so as to avoid the shield that is surrounding the planet. Again, 2 very cool scenes. So, admittedly, this isn't as big of a problem, but still, it frustrates me that in his own movie, in Solo: A Star Wars Story, Han is kind of shown to be a really, really bad pilot, and that's just, I can't believe they did that. But something that is absolutely a problem with Han Solo in Star Wars Episode 7 is the fact that he's kind of a deadbeat. He's still cool, but it's just, he's kind of a loser. And I get that that's the point, like with losing his son, it just kind of completely wrecked him as a character, which is fine, I guess, but it's off-screen characterization, and that bothers me. Like, it really frustrates me that he regressed in his character progression, right? Like, in the original trilogy, we saw him go from excellent smuggler to rebel leader and rebel general, but then he goes back to being a smuggler in this one. It's just, why the regression? He's still cool, but it's just frustrating that he's still a deadbeat. And so I really don't like that Disney chose to regress his character in this way. And I get that the focus is usually more on Luke Skywalker. His character regression is way worse than Han Solo's. He cuts himself off from the Force, he hides away on a planet, he dies in a really lame way, where at least Han got some redemption. He had some cool scenes, and notably, he tried to save his son. That was a really powerful scene where he tries to convince Kylo to come back to the light side and then ends up dying. It's absolutely a heroic death and does give Han Solo some redemption in the end, on top of his brief scene in Star Wars Episode 9 that was also touching and sweet. But he's still done really poorly in these movies, and that really frustrates me. And while the focus is typically on Luke, I also want to shed some focus on Han Solo, because Han deserves better, and that frustrates me. Now, admittedly, to Disney's credit, Han Solo was not that cool in Star Wars Episode 6, the last time we saw him. He was kind of goofy, he was kind of dorky, and I know that's in part because the actor Harrison Ford wanted to be killed off in that movie. But regardless of that, you had a chance to make him cool again, to show him being cooler and the same level of coolness that we saw in Star Wars Episode 5 and Star Wars Episode 4. But no, you regressed him, you made him uncool, he was a bad pilot, he was a bad smuggler, and it just left me feeling empty and frustrated, and I really, really don't like that. In fact, the only character that they got right from the original trilogy was Princess Leia, and in that, they just kind of kept the status quo. She was a great rebellion leader in Star Wars Episodes 4, 5, and 6, and she's still a good rebellion leader in Star Wars Episodes 7, 8, and 9. Yay. I guess the one thing they gave to Leia was that she could use the Force and trained as a Jedi. That is pretty cool. I do think that's cool, despite the Mary Poppins flight, but talk about that another day. But the important thing is that of our original trilogy, Disney chose to have two of them go through a character regression, most of it off screen and in a very unsatisfying and uncool way without giving those characters proper attempts to get redemption. And that is frustrating. And that is why I don't like what Disney did to Han Solo. The focus is usually on Luke Skywalker, but Han Solo deserves a little bit of a spotlight as well because they have really not done his character well. And that frustrates me.